Today we're going to figure out how to figure out the equation of a line when you have 2 points on the line. So this is really reliant on slope, so let's quickly review slope. If I have these 2 points, and this is point 2 and this is point 1, it's going to be 3 minus negative 2 over 1 minus 0. So I'll be left with 5 over 1. So that's equal to a slope of 5. Just pause here for a second, and then I'll write down the slope for the next one. You try it yourself. So for that one there, the slope is negative 2 because it's negative 2 minus 2 and 5 minus 3. So if you look at this equation, or this problem at the bottom, it says Bill borrowed $75 from his parents. He's paying back $5 per week. Write an equation that models this situation. So this is going to end up being something where we're going to start off with $75, and then we're going to subtract $5 per the number of weeks, and that's going to be, let's say, C for the amount that he still owes. So the amount he still owes is $75 minus $5 per week. And then you can plug in the number of weeks and figure out how much he owes based on that. So previously we'd worked with problems where we said something like the slope was 2, and then you had this point 0, negative 3. Now that's 0, negative 3, because of that 0 value in the x, that's going to be the y-intercept. So this is pretty easy to figure out because it's going to be y equals mx, and the slope is m, plus b, and this is going to be the y-intercept, which is b, so plus negative 3. Or alternatively, just 2x minus 3, that's the same thing. So if you have the y-intercept in there already, it's really quick to write. The next step, though, is the next level is going to be this sort of problem here. Write the equation of a line that passes through the point 2, 5 and has a slope of 3. Where we're going to solve this is we're going to set the equation with the y-intercept being an unknown. So y is equal to 3, because that's the slope, x plus b. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to plug in here 2 for my x and 5 for my y. So if I do that, I now have 5 for this y here is equal to 3 times 2 plus b. So my new equation is 5 is equal to 6 plus b. I subtract 6 from both sides, I'm left with b is equal to negative 1. So now I have what the value is for b, and I also have the slope. So I can now write the equation as y equals 3x plus negative 1, or just minus 1. Either of those will work. Now I've got my equation, and that's the equation that works, that has a slope of 3 and this as a point. We're going to try another one here. I'm actually going to do this bottom one here. So if you look here at this next one here, I'm going to rewrite it as y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus b. The reason why it's negative 1/3 is that's the slope. So now I'm going to plug in this for my x and this for my y. When I do that, I'm going to be left with 15 is equal to negative 1/3 times 9 plus b. I'm going to do this a little bit further up there. I'm going to change that so it's going to be 15 is equal to what's negative 1/3 times 9. That's going to be negative 3 plus b. So b is going to be equal to, add 3 to both sides, 18. So now I can fill in the b part of my equation. I've got my slope already. So my new line equation is going to be y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 18. And that's how you do this. I'd like you to try this next one here by yourself, this middle one here. Write the equation of the line that passes through the point 6, 3 and has a slope of -2. I'm going to do that one. Just pause it here for a second, give it yourself a try on it, and then I'll put the answer up there. So the answer to that one is going to be right here. Y equals negative 2x plus 15. This one here, it's a little bit more complicated because you're being given 2 points. So you have to do one additional step, which is going to be to calculate the slope. So if I choose this as my point 2 and this is my point 1, I end up with 9 minus negative 1 as my slope, my change in y, and then I have 3 minus negative 2 there. So now it's going to be 10 over 5, so the slope is equal to 2. Now I'm going to do the same thing I was doing before, which is I'm going to plug in either of these 2 points. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to choose to plug in this point because I prefer to use positive values. I've got my slope, so it's going to be y is equal to 2x plus b. Then it's going to be 9 is equal to 2 times 3 plus b. So it's going to be 9 is equal to 6 plus b. So b is going to be equal to 3. Now I can substitute 3 in for that. So the equation of the line is going to be I'm going to do the second one here, and if you look here, I've got those 2 points. I'm going to figure out the slope. I'm going to choose this as 0.2 and this is 0.1. So it's 0 minus negative 4. It's going to be the slope. That's the change in y. And then 3 minus 2. So I'm going to end up with 4 over 1. So the slope is 4. So now I know what the slope is. It's going to be y is equal to 4x plus b. Doesn't matter which point I choose. I'm going to choose this one because it has positive values. So it's going to be 0 is equal to 4 times 3, because that's my x there, plus b. So it's going to be 0 is equal to 12 plus b. So b is going to equal to negative 12. Now I can substitute that negative 12 where that is. I'm left with y is equal to 4x minus 12. So going to pause here. If you pause here for a minute, I'm going to do the problems at the bottom here. But pause here, try and give it a shot yourself. So that's the answer to the next one. The last one I'll do now. So you probably got down as this far, and then you might have gotten a little bit confused because now we've got a fraction here. So because I substituted an 8 and 5, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that 8 into 16 over 2, because that's what 8 as halves, and then it's going to be 5 over 2 plus b. Subtract 5 halves from both sides, you're left with 11 halves is what b is equal to. And that means our equation, a long-winded one, is going to be 1/2 x plus 11 over 2. Oh, it was a tough one. We'll practice that more. These problems here are almost the same as the previous page. What you just have to remember is that this thing, it says function, the function when the value is 2 of x, its value is 3, which means that the point, the function is going to be 2, 3. And the other point is going to be negative 3, 8. From there, you just go ahead and do exactly what we did on the previous page. So the point here would be 2, 4 to negative 4, excuse me. And then this one would be negative 4, 7. And then we'd figure out the slope, and then we'd do exactly what we did on the previous page. So really this is just one additional step. You just have to recognize that these values indicate what the x and the y are. So here's a word problem, and in this situation it says a carnival charges $2.50 per ride after an entrance fee. You paid a total of $22.50 after 6 rides. Write an equation that gives the total cost as a function of the number of rides. Find the total cost for 15 rides. Okay, so first off, this is going to be the change. This is the slope. If you go on more rides, it costs more. So if you go on 1 ride, it costs $2.50. If you go on 2 rides, it costs $5. So that's a really important part here. We're going to say that we're going to say the cost is what the carnival, the total cost, and then we're going to go ahead and say R for the number of rides. So the cost is equal to $2.50 or 2.5. That makes sense, but it actually costs more than that to get in because there was a fee that we're adding on. So that's essentially going to be our slope, our y-intercept. So we know it's $22.50 after 6 rides. So that means the total cost is 22.5 is equal to 2.5 times 6, and then I'm going to solve for b. So 22.5 is equal to 2.5 times 6. That's going to end up being, let's see here, it's going to end up being $15 plus b. So when I subtract 15 on both sides, I end up with a 7.5 is equal to b. So that means that the equation, I can now substitute this back in there. The cost is equal to 2.5 times the number of rides plus $7.50. Now, if I want to figure out the cost of 15 rides, I have to plug that in. The cost is going to equal to 2.5 times 15 plus 7.5. So 2.5 times 15 is going to be $37.5, and then you still have the $7.50. So the total cost is going to be, let's see here. It's going to be $45 to go to that carnival and to go on 15 rides. The really important thing about this is that you can go ahead and figure out the equation of any line when you're given 2 points. A lot of it has to do with figuring out the slope and then plugging in an x and a y to figure out the y-intercept. Then once you do that, you have your equation and all done.